Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you guys my Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince reading vlog. I will be sure to link the playlist up in the cards of all of the Harry Potter reading vlogs that I have done thus far. For those of you guys that are new to my channel, I have been rereading these books for the very first time, and it has been such a fun experience documenting this for you guys and for my channel. So I am not too far into this. I'm on page 108, that is chapter 7, The Slug Club. And so far we've had some things happen, but we're also just getting a lot of new information and exposition. So far Dumbledore has gotten Horace Slughorn to come back to Hogwarts and be the new Defense Against the Dark arts teacher, and now Harry is living at the Burrow with Hermione, Ron, and the rest of the Weasley family, leading up to them going back to Hogwarts. Also, I do want to note that I will be talking about all kinds of spoilers in all of these reading vlogs because these books and these movies have been out for years, so I'm assuming that you guys have at least watched the movies. So we have also learned that Snape is doing some shady things. At this point, he has made an unbreakable vow with Narcissa Malfoy, who is Draco Malfoy's mother, because Draco has been tasked with killing Dumbledore, and if Draco cannot fulfill that, then Snape has to be the one to do it. With this installment and Order of the Phoenix, those are the two movies that I have seen the least amount of times. I want to say I've only seen Half-Blood Prince maybe twice. Same with Order of the Phoenix. So with rereading Order of the Phoenix, there were quite a things that I had forgotten about the main plot. And with this installment as well, there are so many things that I don't remember. To be honest, I can't even tell you like what the main climax of the story is, other than the fact that Dumbledore gets murdered at the end. And I do know that this is the installment also that we get a true introduction about what Horcruxes are and how to get rid of them. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to working my way through this one. I will of course give you updates pretty much daily about my reading experience and little talking points that I want to bring up here and there. The only couple of things that I wanted to talk about right away was the very first chapter called The Other Minister. I thought that was a really interesting chapter. We get to see the interaction between the Muggle world and the Wizarding world because Cornelius Fudge shows up in the Prime Minister's office and they talk about all of the things that are going wrong now that Voldemort is back and is back in power. I also don't remember Cornelius Fudge stepping down or having to resign from Minister of Magic, and now we have, let's see, Rufus Scrimgeour as the Minister of Magic. I just do not recall that at all from the movie. And I also thought it was really cool and surprising for me personally that Harry makes Quidditch captain, you know, for the Gryffindor Quidditch team. I do not remember that at all. I'm interested to see him in that kind of role, him being a leader, and I just think that's really exciting for him and his character. But yeah, that's it for this update. I'm actually getting ready to head to opera rehearsal. I actually have rehearsals from about 3:30 this afternoon till 10 p.m. so I have a very long day ahead of me, so I won't be able to get a ton more reading done on this book because I am reading it physically. I'm also listening to the audiobook at the same time, but I'm not going to be able to listen to just the audiobook because I am annotating this copy, and so I want to be able to look at the physical book. And yeah, that's going to be it for now, and I'll talk to you guys later. Hey guys, what's up? It is pretty late on Wednesday night, so I thought it was definitely well past time to give you guys a reading update. So, Half-Blood Prince, I am on page 332, and that is chapter 19, Elf Tales. And I do have quite a few things I want to discuss about this book now that I'm well over past the halfway mark. First of all, going into this, I didn't think I was going to love this installment as much as I honestly have been, because I knew that this book is not the most fast-paced. There's not a ton of action-packed scenes because the entire point of this book is, one, about the Half-Blood Prince, figuring out who that person is and all of that, and then two, figuring out Voldemort's past and also figuring out Horcruxes and things like that. So honestly, I did feel like this book was going to be pretty slow and it wasn't going to be my favorite installment of the series, but to be quite honest, this book already has become one of my favorite of the series. I would probably put it in the top 3 books of the series in my personal opinion. This book is just so fascinating to me because we're getting all this information about Voldemort that I honestly had forgotten about. We have these scenes where Dumbledore is taking Harry with him into his pensieve, where he has collected various memories about Voldemort when he was in his youth. So this first memory is from a man named Bob Ogden, or Ogden. And he was working for the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. And he showed up to this, you know, decrepit looking house of this man named Mr. Gaunt, I believe. And we learn that these two people named Morphin and Merope, or Merope, also lived there with Mr. Gaunt. And essentially we learn that Mr. Gaunt was Tom Riddle / Voldemort's grandfather, and then Merope or Merope, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce her name, was Voldemort's mother, and then Morphin, I guess, would be then Voldemort's uncle. So in this first memory, we do learn a lot about Merope and how she fell in love with this muggle named Tom Riddle, and she made a love potion for him to fall in love with her. And I think that Merope and Tom Riddle Sr., they do end up getting married, and then she becomes pregnant with a baby who ends up being Tom Riddle Jr. / Voldemort. I know that's a little bit confusing because there's so many Tom Riddles in this story. And then we also learn that eventually Merope let the love potion wear off because she wanted Tom Riddle Sr. to love her for her, and he didn't, and so he left her and came back to their village. The second memory is from Dumbledore himself when he goes to the orphanage that Tom Riddle Jr. / Voldemort is now living in as a child. So then we learn that Merope shows up to this orphanage like only a couple of hours before giving birth to Tom. I'm just going to refer to him as Tom. You all know that I'm talking about Voldemort. So then she gives birth to Tom, and then I think dies like only like a couple of hours after giving birth to him, and so then he is an orphan. And so in this memory, Dumbledore shows up and talks to Tom and tells him like, yo, what's up? You're a wizard, like come to Hogwarts. And Tom is like, thanks, I always knew that I was special, and like I'm already evil, but I'm just a little kid. And like there's all these stories from I guess the head of the orphanage, this lady, I think Mrs. Cole is her name, and she tells Dumbledore that little kid Tom has been doing some pretty fucked up things, but Dumbledore doesn't seem to be too worried about this, which I find odd, but okay. And so yeah, he's just like, okay Tom, come to Hogwarts, and here's some money so you can get some secondhand robes and books and all those things. Also, there are a few details in this memory that I do want to recite word for word. Dumbledore says he preferred to operate alone. The adult Voldemort is the same. You will hear many of his Death Eaters claiming that they are in his confidence, that they are alone, are close to him, even understand him. They are deluded. Lord Voldemort has never had a friend, nor do I believe that he has ever wanted one. And then he says, and lastly, I hope you are not too sleepy to pay attention to this, Harry. The young Tom Riddle liked to collect trophies, because earlier in the memory, basically Dumbledore finds a box of other people's items in Tom Riddle's closet. He goes on to say, you saw the box of stolen articles he had hidden in his room. These were taken from victims of his bullying behavior, souvenirs, if you will, of particularly unpleasant bits of magic. Bear in mind this magpie-like tendency, for this particularly will be important later, and that of course goes into the whole Horcruxes storyline that I will probably discuss later once I actually get to that point in the book. And I do have a couple other memories that I want to talk about. So Tom Riddle goes back to his hometown. He shows up at the decrepit Gaunt house, and he finds Morphin, who is much older at this point. And so Voldemort finds a way to take Morphin's wand, and he goes to the house of his father, so Tom Riddle Sr. and Tom Riddle Sr.'s mother and father. So Voldemort's own father and paternal grandparents, and he murders all of them with Morphin's wand. But does some really complicated magic so that Morphin remembers it as himself murdering these people, and so Voldemort gets away with it. Because at this point in his life, Tom has really come to resent and hate his father, because he has now kind of learned that his father never really wanted him, and his father was a muggle, and so that's where his muggle-hating tendencies have kind of started from. And then the final memory that we see, at least from where I stopped reading, was from Professor Slughorn. And so Professor Slughorn was teaching at Hogwarts at the time that Tom Riddle was there, and he was in Slughorn's Slug Club. And there is a scene where Tom asks Professor Slughorn about Horcruxes, but Slughorn tampers with this memory. He makes it seem like he's telling Tom to just go away and then he knows nothing about Horcruxes. But Dumbledore and Harry do discuss this for a little bit, that it's obvious that the memory was tampered with, so something much more sinister must have gone down. Of course, as someone who is rereading this and has watched the movie, I already know that Slughorn was the person to actually educate Tom about Horcruxes, and so Slughorn feels very guilty about this, and so that's why he tampered with the memory in the first place. But I think I'm also going to wait and discuss that further once I get to that point in the plot. Also, can I just say, Book Ginny is so much more interesting than Ginny in the movies. I don't know what it is about the movies. I feel like it's the actress, but it could also be the way that the screenplay was written. I just feel like in the movies she was very blah, very forgettable, and to me in the movies it did seem very forced, you know, why Harry wanted to be with Ginny and vice versa. But in the books, Ginny is so much more like outgoing. She stands up to people. She has an actual personality. She's actually kind of funny. I also really appreciate Harry's character in this book specifically, but also the series as a whole, just because I feel like in the books he is actually really funny. And I feel like in the movies Harry is very docile and almost kind of boring, but in the books he's funny, he's sarcastic, he's also a lot more outgoing about like being brave and standing up to people or standing up for his friends, and he's even more defiant against adults that are doing wrong things or are being shady in any kind of way. And I really appreciate that because it really shows how worthy Harry is of being in Gryffindor. There's even this scene where he stands up to Rufus Grimjour, who is the new Ministry of Magic, because Scrimgeour comes to him and he's like, yo Harry, what up? Like, the Ministry of Magic, we looking bad right now. Like, if you could pretty much just publicly endorse us, like that would be great. We would appreciate that. And then Harry's like, you kind of terrorized me all last year. Like, why would I do that for you? Like, he actually stands up for himself. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring that up. That's going to be it for this reading update, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Guys, I actually wasn't planning on doing a reading update. It is Thursday night. I was going to wait until tomorrow afternoon when I finish Half-Blood Prince, but I have a couple of scenes that I want to discuss that made me feel really emotional that I didn't want to wait until tomorrow to discuss. So basically, I am on page 427, and that is chapter 24, Sectum Sempra. And so I'm just a little over 100 pages out from the end, and there are two scenes in particular that made me feel very emotional. So the first one was the scene where Harry finally convinced Slughorn to hand over the actual memory where Voldemort asked him about Horcruxes, and Slughorn actually explained to him what they were. And what made me feel oddly emotional about it was because throughout this whole book, Slughorn is not the most likable character. Then in this scene, when he finally hands over the memory, you know, he tells Harry quite a few times, basically, you know, I hope you don't hate me after this, and I feel very ashamed and guilty for what I've done because, you know, at the time, obviously Slughorn didn't know what he was doing by telling Voldemort about Horcruxes, but now he knows better, and he knows that he's actually done some very significant damage by being the one to initially inform then Tom Riddle, now Voldemort, about Horcruxes. And it was just really sad because, I mean, I can only imagine the type of guilt that you would feel in aiding someone that went on to become the darkest wizard ever, pretty much. And then the other scene that made me feel pretty emotional was when Dumbledore and Harry look at the actual memory of Slughorn's, and they're discussing what Horcruxes are and how Voldemort has, I believe, 6 Horcruxes, and then the 7th part of his soul is in his actual body. And they're having this discussion, and Harry is getting upset because he doesn't really know like what he has over Voldemort, because he knows that he's just a 16-year-old boy. You know, he's definitely not as powerful as Voldemort. Like, how can he actually take him on? Because we know that the prophecy says only one can live while the other dies. And so Dumbledore says, well, you have the ability to love. And Harry's like, oh, big deal. So what? Like, what has love done for me, or what can love do for me? And throughout this discussion, it really turns into an argument because Dumbledore is getting more and more frustrated. He's getting heated. You know, he's trying to explain to Harry that his ability to love is really going to be Voldemort's downfall. And Harry doesn't really believe it, as most of us wouldn't, because like I said, he's a 16-year-old boy going up against this powerful dark wizard. And I was getting really emotional because we've never really seen Dumbledore get this heated, especially just to Harry. He's always been pretty nice to Harry, but he's getting very frustrated, and he actually kind of starts yelling at Harry. And I realized that it's because Dumbledore at this point knows that he has to die. And I can't remember the exact, you know, timeline of all this. I know this gets explained in Deathly Hallows, so be prepared that I will be talking about some kind of like spoilery things from Deathly Hallows. But he does know at this point, I'm pretty sure, that he's going to have to die in order for Voldemort to die, in a way. So it just made me really sad because Dumbledore knows that this is one of the last times that he's ever going to get to have a conversation with Harry, and I'm sure Dumbledore is also feeling very upset because I'm pretty sure at this point too, Dumbledore knows that Harry is a Horcrux himself, and Harry is going to have to die in order for Voldemort to die. So I think there's a lot of just kind of guilt and anger and frustration going on inside Dumbledore's head, you know, during this whole like heated argument. And so yeah, that made me feel really emotional as well. I'm tearing up right now as I'm talking about it. But that's going to be it for this reading update, and I will talk to you guys when I finish the book tomorrow. All right, happy Friday, everyone. I just finished Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince like maybe 5 minutes ago, and I did have a couple more things that I wanted to discuss. First of all, I didn't realize how quickly Ginny and Harry get together in this book. Like, literally, you know, Harry has detention with Snape, so he can't be at the very last Quidditch match of the season, but the Gryffindor team wins the cup anyway. And so Harry shows up like at the after party, and he just finds Ginny and kisses her. And then in the very next chapter, they've been dating for a few weeks, so there's that. And then also at the end, I was kind of surprised and shocked to see that Harry actually breaks up with Ginny, like right at the very end. I don't know, I just assumed that once they got together, they just stayed together, but I guess there's going to be kind of a reunion in Deathly Hallows for the two of them. Also, I do have to say, I like their relationship a lot more in the books than in the movies. I've already said this, I did not like the way that Ginny was portrayed in the movies overall, but their relationship also was just kind of awkward and weird, and I was just not here for it. But in the books, I think it's just done better, and I really liked the scene where Harry was breaking up with her because Ginny was actually kind of fighting back. Like, Harry says, we've got to stop seeing each other, we can't be together. And then Ginny says, with an oddly twisted smile, it's for some stupid noble reason, isn't it? Then Harry goes on to say, Voldemort uses people his enemies are close to. He's already used you as bait once, and that was just because you're my best friend's sister. Think how much danger you'll be in if we keep this up. He'll know, he'll find out, he'll try and get to me through you. And Ginny said, what if I don't care? And then Harry says, I care. How do you think I'd feel if this was your funeral and it was my fault? Because this is at Dumbledore's funeral. And then she says, I never really gave up on you, she said. Not really. I always hoped. Hermione told me to get on with my life, maybe go out with some other people, relax a bit around you, because I never used to be able to talk if you were in the room, remember? And she thought you might take a bit more notice if I was a bit more myself. And then Harry says, smart girl, that Hermione. I just wish I'd asked you sooner. We could have had ages, months, years maybe. And I don't know, I just really liked that scene, and it just gives their relationship a lot more meaning than I feel like the movies did. Also, we get meaning as to why Snape called himself the Half-Blood Prince. I thought that it was literally he was calling himself a prince, but apparently his mother's name was Eileen Prince, and Snape's father was a Muggle, and so he is a half-blood, but he's calling himself Half-Blood Prince after his mother's maiden name. So that's the meaning of that. I really do not remember that at all. That may not even be mentioned in the movie, but like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. So with that being said, that's going to be it for this reading vlog. I really, really loved this installment. I think this is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite installment of the series so far. I just loved seeing Voldemort's past come into play. I thought that Rowling struck like the perfect balance between lighter situations and darker / heavier situations, because obviously we've got some devastating things going on in this book, but at the same time she did a good job of balancing that with things like, you know, Lavender Brown and Ron's romance, and Harry being the Quidditch captain and all the things that he has to deal with that. So I just think that this installment is probably one of the best written of the whole series. And yeah, I'm excited to read the 7th and final book next month, and I will definitely be doing a reading vlog for that. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I would love it if you would like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I thank you in advance if you do. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!